Direct News TV. August 3, 2023. Russia-Ukraine updates, neither Putin nor Zelenskyy ready for peace, Lula. Russia intent on causing global catastrophe, Zelenskyy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that Russia's attacks on port infrastructure showed Moscow was intent on creating a global catastrophe, with a crisis in food markets, prices and supplies. For the Russian state, this is not just a battle against our freedom and against our country, Zelenskyy said in his nightly video address on Wednesday. Moscow is waging a battle for a global catastrophe. In their madness, they need world food markets to collapse, they need a price crisis, they need disruptions in supplies. Ministry restricts movement of ships, aircrafts in Kerch Strait, TASS. Russia's defense ministry said it imposed restrictions on movement of ships and aircraft in the Kerch Strait, Russia's state-owned TASS news agency reports. The report on Wednesday did not immediately identify a reason for the move. The Kerch Strait connects the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea, to the east of the Crimean Peninsula. Russian ruble falls to more than 16-month low against the dollar. The Russian ruble has tumbled more than 2% to a more than 16-month low past 94 against the dollar, pressured by political risk, falling oil prices and concerns the finance ministry may switch to foreign currency purchases this month. On Wednesday, the ruble was 2% weaker against the dollar at 94.16, earlier hitting 94.32, its weakest point since March 28, 2022. Lula lashes out at UNSC for not stopping Ukraine war. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has lashed out at the Western powers backing Ukraine and the permanent United Nations Security Council members for not stopping war. The UN Security Council has not worked. United States invaded Iraq, France and England invaded Libya, now Russia. And everyone has veto power, he stated. Lula had said that neither Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy nor Russian President Vladimir Putin are ready to talk peace. Brazil's role is to try to arrive at a peace proposal together with others for when both countries want it, he said. Zelenskyy hopes Ukraine peace summit could be held this autumn. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said he hoped a Ukraine peace summit could be held this autumn, and that this week's talks in Saudi Arabia were a stepping stone towards that goal. Zelenskyy told Ukrainian diplomats on Wednesday that almost 40 countries would be represented at the meeting in Jeddah on August 5 and 6. The president and his team are working with allies to build broad support for a peace summit that would endorse principles to underpin a settlement to end the war started by Russia's full-scale invasion almost 18 months ago. Zelenskyy's vision for peace calls for the full restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity in a full withdrawal of Russian troops, the protection of food and energy security, nuclear safety, the release of all prisoners, and other points. No venue has been agreed for the summit yet. Ukrainian and Western officials have said the summit would not involve Russia. UN working to get Ukrainian and Russian food, fertilizer to markets. The United Nations has said it is working with various sides to get Ukrainian and Russian food to global markets after warning of a potential crisis in the world's poorest countries due to Russia's decision to abandon the deal, brokered by the UN and Turkey. Deputy UN spokesman Farhan Haq told reporters on Wednesday, "We continue to reach out, at various levels, to make sure that we can continue to do as much as possible to get Ukrainian and Russian food and fertilizer out to markets, but it is difficult." Putin asked Erdogan for help to export grain to Africa, Kremlin says. President Vladimir Putin asked his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan to help Russia export its grain to African countries vulnerable to food shortages, the Kremlin has said. The willingness for cooperation with Turkey and other interested states on this issue was expressed, during a call between the two leaders, a Kremlin statement said on Wednesday, in the wake of Moscow's decision to scrap a Turkish brokered deal allowing Ukraine to export food through the Black Sea. Paris accuses Moscow of risking global food security. Paris has accused Moscow of deliberately putting global food security at risk after Russian drone attacks damaged infrastructure at a Ukrainian port on the Danube vital for grain exports. Russia is once again deliberately putting global food security at risk by destroying essential grain export infrastructure, the French Foreign Ministry said on Wednesday, accusing Moscow of only pursuing its own interest at the expense of the most vulnerable populations, and driving up prices of agricultural products. Local militias in 2 Russian regions bordering Ukraine get weapons. Local militia groups in 2 Russian regions bordering Ukraine were provided with weapons to ward off Ukrainian attacks, local officials have said. The militias were originally created in the Kursk and Belgorod regions last December to assist the armed forces, National Guard and police. The governor of Russia's western Kursk region said his territorial militia had received their first batch of weapons, while state media reported that units in Belgorod region had received weapons. Both regions have reported repeated drone strikes and shelling from Ukraine's armed forces. UK announces new ambassador to Russia. The British Foreign Office announced the appointment of Nigel Casey as the new ambassador to Russia amid rising tensions between Moscow and London. Casey succeeds Deborah Braunert, who held the post since 2020 and will take up the role in November. Last month, Moscow announced travel restrictions for British diplomats working in Russia. Now, officials, with few exceptions, will need to notify authorities in advance about their movements around the country, outlining their planned itinerary in detail. Moscow said the measures were in response to the hostile actions of London, such as hindering the normal operation of Russian foreign missions in the UK. Neither Putin nor Zelenskyy are ready for peace, Brazil. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said while his country is working for peace in Ukraine, neither its leader nor Putin is ready to talk. Neither Putin nor Zelenskyy are ready for peace, Lula told reporters in a news conference. Lula added that the peace proposals he is seeking with other neutral countries will be ready for when Russia and Ukraine are ready to negotiate. Putin says policy of West is to destroy everything Russian. Putin says the policy of the West and Ukraine is to destroy everything Russian, the state news agency TASS reports. During a meeting with members of his government, Putin spoke about the 4 annexed regions of Ukraine, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson, and integrating them into the Russian cultural space. Strictly speaking, the inhabitants of these regions have never left this space. They carefully preserve both their native language and a keen interest in great Russian literature. I know they love the works of our outstanding compatriots, Putin said. And this is despite all the attempts of the current Ukrainian authorities to ban the books of Russian classics, contemporaries, to withdraw them even from sale, from libraries, or even more so, to destroy them, as they and their Western masters dream of doing with everything or everyone who thinks, talks, reads in Russian. Putin added that the 4 regions have returned home to their native bosom. Russia hit infrastructure housing foreign mercenaries in Izmail, RIA. Overnight Russian strikes on the Ukrainian port of Izmail hit port and grain infrastructure housing foreign mercenaries and military hardware, the Russian RIA news agency reported. RIA cited Sergei Lebedev, a man it described as a coordinator of an underground group in Mykolaiv with sources in Izmail. Lebedev said there had been 8 separate Russian strikes and that among the structures hit were an oil terminal, a repair yard for Ukrainian naval cutters, a port building thought to house foreign forces, and a grain storage unit and elevator where it said foreign military hardware was stored. Ukrainian chess prodigy aims to become the youngest chess grandmaster. After fleeing Ukraine once the conflict broke out and moving to the UK, 9-year-old Maxim Christofor's quest to become the world's youngest chess grandmaster is all to play for. About 40,000 tons of grain damaged by Russia, Ukraine. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister said Russia's attacks damaged about 40,000 tons of grains which were expected by countries in Africa. On X, formerly known as Twitter, Oleksandr Kubrikov said, the Russians attacked warehouses and grain elevators, almost 40,000 tons of grain were damaged, which was expected by the countries of Africa, China, and Israel. The world must resist. Attacks on Ukrainian ports are a threat to the world. We can defend ourselves, and our air defense forces can use weapons effectively. We need more of it. Each air defense system saved a life. Speed and determination are the destiny of the strong ones. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.